In what might be the toughest position to evaluate, we're talking interior linemen. We're talking guards and centers right now. Brendan Albert is back. I'm Adrian Fedke. We just did our top 5 tackles. Now it's time for the top 5 interior guys. So you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to talk just before we get into our list, let's just talk about why it's hard to evaluate guards and centers and why they're less value than tackles.
Yeah, so, when you think about it, the problem we get with the interior linemen is they're almost never on an island. And what I mean by that, guys, is they're almost never left one-on-one to block somebody like a tackle is. So typically the offensive line thought process is with tackle, we have to win with skill. We have to win with skillful guys who I can say, hey, backside, you're locked up one-on-one with Von Miller, and we're going to win. Now, when we get interior, the interior thought process is if we get a 2-man pressure, like a 4 down front, or if we get a blitzing Mike with a nose, we'll probably only have 2 interior rushes, maybe 3. If that's the case, we have 3 offensive linemen, left guard, center, right guard. So the thought process there is, can we win with communication pre-snap, and can we win with help? The other thing we have to remember here, typically, if you have a back, unless we're an empty, of course, if we have a back, backs are taught you always pass block inside out. So their first read is A gaps to B gaps. So again, centers and guards always have a kind of a help man back there. Tackles don't always get that luxury unless we get a tight end in. But by that point, usually your outside back or your D end is beating our tackle like a drum so bad that we know we need the help. So the value for interior alignment is very, very low. Perfect example, Zach Martin, right? Everyone knew coming out, Zach Martin, he was going to be a dude. Everyone knew, hey, this guy is going to be a really, really good player. He's going to be a good guard. Zach Martin, though, was drafted 16th overall, and he played tackle for Notre Dame. So he wasn't even a true guard coming out. Cody Whitehair is a better example. Cody Whitehair came out of Kansas State as a more traditional guard. He didn't go to the second round, even though everyone said in the pre-draft last year, this guy's probably the best pure offensive lineman. But the value of interior linemen usually gets bumped back.
And they're even bumped back even more for centers, it seems like. I rarely see centers get drafted in the first round. I can't think of one besides like Nick Mangold.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the deal with our centers. Usually the thought process, and I always talk about this when I'm working with high school athletes, whether they play tackle or guard, I always say, can you play center? And they say, yeah, I can do it a little bit. I said, look, just learn how to play center, because if you're able to do it, you're able to get by. That's the same thought process a lot of offensive linemen have is, hey, can this guy just snap the ball back there and look to his left to see, do I need help here, or do I need help here in pass block? That's really all they're asking for a lot of centers. So the value of a center is pretty low. However, the intellectual value for a center is very high. So centers will usually go 2nd to 5th. Now, the kind of exception we had was Ryan Kelly last year, who went to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, he went first round.
He was a first-round dude, yeah. But, I mean, he was one of those guys where he controlled the offensive line for Alabama, and didn't help that the Colts offensive line was about as useful as wet toilet paper. So, he was in a great spot to get drafted high.
Yeah, that Colts offensive line is an abomination for sure. Yeah. All right, number 1. I got to say it. I love Lamp. Do you love Lamp?
Love Lamp, baby. Love Lamp.
All right. Give your scouting report since you're smarter than me.
So I have a Lamp here as my first guy taken. Probably a guard center tackle combination. He's not necessarily reminds me as much as Zach Martin. Reminds me more of Cody Whitehair from Kansas State. Now that said, Cody started over 10 games for the Bears this past year between guard and center, and he's a 2nd-round pick. Now Lamp's going to go higher than that. I think he's a little more polished because, like Zach Martin, he played left tackle in college. And if you watch the tape that everyone's talking about, Mayock loves this tape, and he's not wrong. He's 100% right. The tape he has when he played Bama, he was going against Williams and Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, he absolutely
was the first guy strictly on that tape.
Absolutely. So He's usually, guards typically aren't going to be drafted that high. I think Lamp's value is probably going to be in that 15 to 20 range is my guess for him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Maybe a little later, but that sounds about right. Great week at the Senior Bowl, and Mayock was raving all about him. Really strong point of attack in the running game. So, yeah, I love Lamp.
No doubt, Reddy. No doubt. Yeah, Lamp's a one dude for sure. Who's your two, Adrian?
My number two. Who is my number two? Where the hell is my list? I lost my list.
That's okay.
Hold on.
I'll give you a. You want me to pinch hit for you?
Go, because fuck, I'm blanking. Go.
Okay. So my two is Pat Eflin from Ohio State.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I was kind of split right between him and Dan Feeney. Mm-hmm. Now, my big reason I went
Dan Feeney's my number two. There it is.
There it is. The reason I put Pat as my number two here, he's a really good run blocker with a quick first punch. He often gets one before two. And what I mean by that is he's very frequent to get his first hand on the defensive lineman before that defensive lineman can get his two. So that's a big, big win. That's a huge importance for interior offensive linemen. How quick can I get the first punch on you? Pat's very good at that. And he's a little heavy-footed in pass protection. You can kind of watch him, and it feels like he's wearing boots sometimes when he's kicking and trying to slide. But honestly, it's not a huge deal for offensive linemen. Usually you're just saying, hey, just don't get bull rushed back into the quarterback. I'm not asking you to stalemate the guy, but don't lose more than 4 yards. That's kind of the big thing. Now, the big reason I have Pat as my two is because Pat has that ability to play center and guard. He was a center at Ohio State, but he can play guard too. So I think that gives him the bump over my three guy, who I think is your number two guy, Adrian.
Yeah, and my number two guy, really good run blocker, just like my number one guy, Lamp. Really strong at the point of attack again. I mean, there's a little bit of similarities between the two.
Certainly. Yeah, now my two guy, I got with Dan Feeney here. If we were to kind of jump in a time capsule and go back to 1980, and we were to kind of design offensive linemen, Dan Feeney is the ideal guard. I mean, he is cut, copy, paste, the ideal guard. Pull, physical, run blocker, downhill, no doubt. I mean, he's very, very good, especially in outside zone. Outside zone, inside zone, they were really, really big run plays for IU this past couple of years. This is really where he excels. We're seeing the zone blocking schemes coming more and more common. So, for him, a team like Atlanta, if he could go somewhere like that, he could be really, really good. Feeney, I think his biggest problem is his pad level. Sometimes if he doesn't get immediate pressure, he can pop a little bit and get a little high. He kind of sink his ass a little more and kind of improve there. But Feeney, like Eflin, these guys are probably going to be late seconds, early third round picks, in my opinion.
All right, my number three is Eflin, but instead of giving us a scouting report, since you already freaking did it, my question for you is he is a little bit small. So do you think he's better suited as a center at the NFL?
I think it certainly depends on what you're kind of looking to do. I think if you're a team who maybe is going to be doing a lot of pull heavy stuff, like you're the Panthers, he's probably better suited at center. Mm-hmm. If you're a team who's a little more limber, flexible, hey, let's be a little more athletic up front, then I think he might be okay to go to guard. But I think ultimately his future is probably a tweener, and it's really just going to be where does the team need him.
Yeah. All right, number four, who you got?
Okay, my four guy. This is a guy I'm actually really excited about. So my four guy is Dorian Johnson for Pitt.
Yeah, that's my number four too.
Okay, so the reason I have him is he's a two-time All-American, two-time All-First-Team ACC player his junior in his past 2 years. So this has me excited when you're able to have those type of things. You come up with accolades. I think he's one of those guys. He might actually play the longest in the NFL of anyone on this list, but he might be the least amount of Pro Bowls of anybody of the other top five guys on our list. He's a solid player. You can watch him, and you watch him at Clemson. Clemson's a very, very aggressive, very, very active front. They're not necessarily just going to say, hey, we're going to line up and beat you. A lot of stunts in this Pitt Clemson tape. did a really good job at communication, did a really good job at sliding him off to the tackle or sliding him off to the guard and quickly snapping his vision. This is something that he's going to see a ton in the NFL. Really like this guy. I think he's probably going to go in the third, but personally, I like him a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the second. His trade-off between him and Freeney and Eflin is he's not necessarily as athletic as those other guys.
And that's why I was agreeing with, like when it was going to come to me, I was going to talk about his lack of athleticism and why I agree with you. Like, not going to be a Pro Bowler, but just going to be a really, really, really solid player for like a decade.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. He's going to be one of those guys that we'll all be here 10 years from now, and he'll be oh my gosh, he's still in the league. He'll be one of those dudes.
Yeah. All right, number 5. My number 5 is Nico Siragusa from San Diego State.
Yep.
I just from watching the bowl game, I remember it really did a good job blocking for Donnell Pumphrey. Not as good in pass blocking, but run blocking, he's got it. So he's powerful. That's my number 5. He's like 325, 330 pounds.
Yeah, Nico is the ideal interior power team.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not gonna think
like what the Eagles need. A big power guy.
He's a big power dude, no doubt about it. My 5 guy is Zach Banner from the USC Fight On Trojans.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking here with Zach, I mean he's another center guard combination. I usually like this, personally when I'm starting to rank guys. If you're not a clear, definite guard or you're a clear center, I want a guy who can do both pretty well. Those are the guys who typically last pretty well in the NFL, and those are the guys you need in the NFL, honestly, towards the end. Now, Zach, he's a road grader at right guard. I mean, he wants to get nasty with you. He wants to win, and he wants to finish. He doesn't want to win. He wants to put his face in your dirt, and he wants to destroy you, which I love. Now, his issue is he's pretty darn tall. He's above 6'6", which is abnormal for offensive guards. Usually the concern is if he's that tall, can he really get down into a 3-point stance? So this could be a little bit of a concern for him. He might actually slide out to right tackle, but his problem is he struggles with speed. He struggles with the speed rushers. So I think ultimately he's going to have to either learn to play a better pad level and play that right guard, or he's going to have to learn to deal with the speed and get better at his kick slide and go out the right tackle. But he's my 5 guy.
Okay. Do you know anything about these small school kids from Tennessee State? You got I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Jessamine Dunker, and then you got Kutztown Jordan Morgan. You know anything about that?
I don't. Only thing I know is Kutztown is another PA school, so I'm going to rep it hard, but I don't have enough to really give anyone feedback on these guys.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Kutztown. That's why. Yeah, I like Kutztown. It's fun. Shorty's baby. Shorty's bar. Really, really.
Kutztown, yay!
Yeah, it's fun. It's not Westchester, but it's fun.
Yep.
Or Temple.
No doubt.
Temple's the best. Better than Penn. Fuck Penn State. Yeah. So I guess I'll just make this point. I'm really curious to see what the Eagles do with the center position because Jason Kelce, as we know, is a little bit undersized, like 290 pounds, and Doug Peterson wants to play more of a power scheme. So I'm really curious to see what the Eagles do, and because last year the Eagles with Kelce, they were using him basically like they were using him before in Chip Kelly's offense, where they were having him move along the perimeter, pulling out to the boundary, and at its core, that's not what Peterson wants to do. He doesn't want to play outside zone. He wants to play power football, power O, run it down your throat. So we'll see. We'll see what he said at the coaches' breakfast that Kelce's going to remain on the team. So we shall see. I'm curious to see what happens. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point.
No, I mean you're certainly right. Here's one of those things. It's like, at some point you're like, Kelce's, he's a little, like maybe he doesn't really fit. Yeah, but you know what? The guy's played 8 years in the NFL, so like he's held his own. I mean, he's not exactly a rookie, trying to learn it. But at the same time, he has played 8 years in the NFL, which also kind of means you're starting to become old. So that's a very, very fair kind of concern. I think a guy like Pat Elflein, if he got to the Eagles in the third, and the Eagles are maybe sitting there saying, okay, we've already addressed the corner situation. maybe we're not we've already addressed maybe a linebacker if Foster was there in the first, or maybe we've already addressed a wide receiver in the second, and Pat Eflin's sitting there. I could see him sliding the Eagles in the third round.
Okay. All right. That's about it. I can't think of anything else we can talk about.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah. All right. You got any final thoughts? That's it? You good?
No, that's it. That's it. I'm excited to talk about the defense, the dark side of the ball. It's been real fun.
Yeah, we'll be getting to that on Wednesday.
No doubt.
Defensive line. So I know our fans, they can't wait for us to talk cornerbacks because that's what the Eagles need.
Oh yeah, it's a glaring hole for the Birds.
They need them. They need like multiple cornerbacks. So yeah, but yeah, that'll be for another show. So that's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedke. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully we can get over 100 views on these things.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, I know you guys don't give a shit about these interior linemen or the tackles, but whatever. We're out. Peace.
Later.